G'day, welcome to Mark and Sam After Work. Today I've got another product video for you. Today I've got a product that I suppose I wasn't particularly considering bringing it to market because it's something that I'm testing and learning to use in my own fashion. But it's this sliding bipod attachment. What it is, well, I'll show you. You can see the basics of it. It's a system that lets the rifle slide on top through recoil, so it's straight forward and back. Now, you can actually preload the thing. I've got a metal stop on this one, so you can preload it forward. Bang, it can slide straight forward and back. Where it comes from, or where the design comes from, is actually on my 50 BMG. I set it up there on a big Dolphin chassis with the first generations of this system. In that format, I was dealing with a very strong, rigid bipod with no flex in it. I like to have that little bit of rock in there so you can get a bit of preload and get a bit of travel over the top, and your bipod feet can stay planted. That system, like most big 50 bipods, are made to skid, which is not how I want to do the shooting. I want to be able to preload, and I want it to be able to move straight forward and back, and I don't want it scruffling all over the place, so I've got to reset it every time I shoot it. That, through various levels of development, started to work really well. I was really happy with how that was coming on, but it was a very custom built thing. Periodically we get questions of, can you build one of those for me? That sort of stuff. Can I buy one? And my answers have been, listen, no, it's a custom thing. It's still in development. We're still testing, yada, yada. What I then thought, I got asked one too many times and thought, okay, listen, I'll try and see if I can design something that's a bit more flexible and allows a little bit of people that'll do things it still is a form where you're going to have to work out how to fix it to your rifle, and there's various choices which I'll go through. But really it's set up in a form that is it is fairly flexible. So that's what I've done here. What it consists of is this component in front here, which is basically a pair of linear bearing blocks, a rail that we've done some modifications with, and then this plate on the top here. I've left this one in bare metal so you can actually see fairly clearly what it all looks like. And I'll go through those details. It has the angle on the bottom for an Arca rail attachment. So as you can see in this one here, I'm using the RRS mount onto an Atlas 5R bipod to attach it to this unit. So a nice big clamp on the side there. I've also got a range of holes here which will let you screw on here various different sizes of Picatinny rails. So you could just use a normal Picatinny rail attachment for your bipod as well. You could also, if you wanted to, put stops in this so your Arca rail attachment couldn't potentially fall off as well if you have concerns there, but that's what that plate is designed for. It mounts the two bearings together, which is what I found gave it enough rigidity to make sure things don't rock around on top there. This bottom rail is cut and sized. I've then drilled and mounted stops on either end so that can't fall off in the way of going from one end to the other end, and then I've drilled and threaded through the base here. And that's, I suppose, I'll go into mounting side of things. You obviously need a moderate amount of room under here to be able to mount this unit from front to back. In this one here, I've got some slightly modified little screws, little M-lock screws that go through, which I'll sell with the system, so they'll come with the component. That means that just uses the M-lock rail on the bottom there to lock to. Two screws, it's on there, nice and neat and tidy. On the big one, on my 50 where I did it, I have drilled and tapped so that the bolts go down through into the bipod from inside the chassis. So depending on what you're doing, you also would obviously be able to screw into wood chassis or into, I wouldn't suggest wood, but into composite chassis. There'll be various ways, but that will be something that you'll be custom mounting up yourself. We'll provide some M-lock systems for it, some bolts to go on the other side, but largely, like I said, that's something you're going to be figuring out for yourself to a degree. I suppose that's the mounting. The rest of the concept that I've done here and the things that I want to do, and the reason I've been prepared to bring it to market, is that it is set up in a form where, well, as you can see here, I'm planning on using it on this 5R. We'll also test it on a normal Atlas bipod, but it's set up in a form that I think will be pretty flexible. And I suppose I'll go through some of the other features that are attached with this design. As said, I wanted to get to a point where I wasn't skidding across the ground. So I'm not setting up in an F-class format where I have the bipod that skids on a big plate I've got to set up and that sort of stuff. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to leave my bipod feet planted for two reasons. One means I can shoot in most places, but the other is I want to get a certain amount of preload on it. So with skids, you've only got the weight of the rifle to push against. With this, you can plant your bipod feet and get a moderate amount of preload, which then it can skid back from, just like on a normal rifle. In this case, and to keep in mind, what it does do is that the bipod is no longer there as a brake. So it's not helping you. The design of this is it frees it to where you are the only brake. So in some cases, that means you're going to get pushed a bit harder. But your bipod feet will stay attached or will stay planted to the ground because it's free moving on the top of it. The other feature this provides is you don't need the strength of a bipod. So where people have great big heavy armed bipods because they're shooting 50 or big calibers and they're worried about that bending or pushing off because the amount of thump, because the amount of recoil they're dealing with, well, this system removes that from the bipod. It's not dealing with that anymore. The maximum load it's got to deal with is your preload, because as long as you're not jumping, where you've got 50 kilos of rifle jumping up and down on it, that's another story. But as long as you've got a straight pushback, then you have really no load on the bipod. It's just slipping over the top. So I think that's going to be a nice feature. I'm looking forward to testing it in a few different rifles. The other feature I'd say to go with this, which is, this is a product still in R&D in some fashions, is how these bearing blocks are going to deal with dust build-up and that side of things. I found mine has, the one that's done a full season of dry summer stuff and quite a few shoots with the 50 BMG, has had no issues. But I would think if you are in really dusty conditions, you're not protecting, you get a lot of blast over everything, then you do have bearing surfaces in here. And even though there's little seals on here, I would say that there will be issues down the track in that score. These are replaceable, these bearing blocks, so you could get new ones if you got to that place. But I would think generally there's lots of other nice things you don't really want coated with dust as well. So I think in most conditions, most shooters are going to set up where they have that covered, so they're not getting blasted with dust and then have no issues whatsoever. I'll put dimensions on the site. Where you'll find this is on our 4AW store. I'll put dimensions on there. But I would say as a last deal to go with that, this is not a sorted system. This is the level, and I've just explained everything I know about the system. And this is not something that I've seen or tried before. It is me. I've been testing it for a season. So the people who are getting it are going to be the first that I know of, at least, that are using this sort of system. So listen, it might not suit everyone, I suppose I'm saying. It's going to be something that you have to be aware of, that side of things, and I'm not going to be able to help much more than what I've just told you that you're going to be learning as you go, as I'll be learning at the same time. So anyway, for those people who've sort of been not pestering, but bugging me, asking a question, it is something that I've worked out a way that I can bring it to you. I'm looking forward to using it like this. I may even put my 50 on and run it with this one here and take that other one off. We'll see, but certainly planning on using different places. And listen, I suppose that's what I can tell you. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for checking in on us. Leave any comments or questions in the comments below. Yeah, we'll catch you next time.